Hey, it's February 2nd. It's Groundhog Day, and winter is not done, but I'm in Florida, and it's a little cool here, to be honest with you, but nothing like the rest of the country is experiencing. And, I'm ready for the summer. I'm ready to go out to the lake, maybe have a picnic or something. So let's paint the lake. Here's the lakeside painting I want to share with you. There we go. I painted it with pan watercolors. Is it getting out of focus? There we go. I painted it with pan watercolors. This is what I mean when I say pan watercolors. These ones here, they're made by Winsor and Newton, and that's what they look like. I know you've seen them before. Oh, the camera is shaking. Sorry about that. There we go. So, these are really, really good paints. I love these watercolors. For probably most of my adult life as an artist, I used paints in tubes, and probably most of you have done that too. And I stayed away from the pan colors, probably because I was a snob. I probably thought, that's kid stuff. Let me tell you something. This is good stuff. And they're not sponsoring me. I wish they were. If you're listening, Winsor and Newton. But anyway, let me show you how I did this one. And it only took about a half hour, by the way, to paint this. All right, let's get to it. All right, so this is, I love these paints, and I don't want to carry on too much because I don't want you to think that I'm saying these things because I'm paid to say them. I just have to assure you that I'm not paid to say them. I've had these paints for a long time. They kind of just sat there on the shelf. I got them as a gift from Robin, and I just, like I said, I'm a snob. I thought, oh, that's kids paint, and it really is a great paint, and I'm actually looking forward to doing more with them. I'm actually looking forward to trying my hand at some portraits, perhaps with the pan paints. And so I did a lot of winter scenes with them. I did a lot of Christmas cards during the winter, and after a while you're ready for something new, and I was ready to do something from the summer. So the painting, I don't have the reference photo here. I have it on my iPad, but I want to just tell you this. My son, when he was younger, he and I used to go camping, and North Carolina was probably one of my favorite destinations. It's not too far of a drive, but it is a drive. You have to drive about 8 hours, maybe 10 hours. And this was in, let me see if I remember, I think it was Greensboro. Greensboro. It was a KOA. So for those of you who are diehard campers, you're probably laughing at me because KOAs are kind of considered like glamping or whatever. But we did have a tent, and maybe one day I'll paint a picture of the tent. But anyway, it had this lake, and it was just a beautiful place. And so I have this as an old photograph. Not a digital photograph, just a regular photograph, because that's what we had back in those days. That would have been the maybe about 95, I think. I think Alex was 9 years old when we went there. But anyway, you want to know about the painting, right? So first I did the sky, and I like to do things in layers, as you know if you know the digital work I do. The layering with digital is essential, I guess you could say, because you can change things on the fly, especially if it's an assignment for somebody. Maybe somebody wants something different. You can change the layer. But with traditional painting, layering is simply painting over the painting. So you think in terms of what do I want and what do I plan on doing later. And when it's watercolor, you want to remember that you want some light to shine through, some of the white paper to shine through, which represents the light. And you can see what I'm trying to do is make the top of the sky a little bit darker. The pan colors from Winsor and Newton in this particular set are limited. Let's see, 2, 4, 6. It's only 12 of them, and you can mix. You can mix on those little areas that's you can't see in the picture right there, but on the right side there's the underside of the lid. You can kind of scrub the colors together and go for mixing of colors the same way you would do if it was tube paint. It's a lot different. I was going to say a little different. The truth is it's a lot different, but it's so rewarding. It looks so good. I just love the way it looks when it's done. The one thing I try not to do is to create a photograph. I always feel like when somebody compliments me and they say, "Oh, I thought that was a photograph," usually that's because I'm posting them on Facebook or Instagram or one of those. And most of the time people are looking at those things on their phone. And so on a phone, a 21 by 27 painting, for example, is down to, an inch maybe on a phone. So it brings it down, and yes, it does seem to be a photographic replication. And I know artists, myself included, we have a tendency to want to do things that look like the photograph. But the truth is, the more artsy look, I think, is the impressionistic look, the broad brush strokes. And when it comes to watercolor, these colors here, it almost lends itself to being impressionistic. It's just the nature of the paint. Now, I suppose we could take our time and do one little brush stroke at a time, but I like doing the broad brush stroke idea to create the look. And so that's what I'm doing here. I think the challenge sometimes is just in the lights and the darks. And water and sand often have their own challenges, so you have to kind of just work with what you have. One of the good things about having photography as a reference is that it stops everything. So you don't have to worry about the sun passing over and changing the direction of the shadows, and you don't have to worry about the wind picking up and changing the surface of the water in a different way. However, with that said, this particular painting only took about a half hour. So that's another reason why I like this. And partially it's because this is a greeting card. So it's a very small canvas, a very small work area. I chose to narrate this, by the way, after the fact rather than narrate it while I was doing it, only because there were other noises going on in the room, and I thought it would be easier to just record the video, and then when I had a chance I could record the audio, the narration, which is what I'm doing right now. But anyway, I can't tell you enough how satisfying, how rewarding these paints are. Now, I don't think you can use all dry pan colors in the same way. I think the density of the pigment in the Winsor Newton is outstanding. I think it's just mixed perfectly, and I don't know how they do it. I've never toured their factory or watched a video on how they do it, but it is so rich. And I will tell you, I have used this particular set of paints for a lot. I have used it for a lot of greeting cards. So it is very satisfying. I can't say it enough. All right, let's get back to the picture. So as you can see, I'm now painting in what I perceive to be the sand. There's a little beach right there, if I remember right. This is 94, 04, 04. This is like 30 years ago. Holy cow. Not quite 30 years ago. Wow. Anyway, yeah, that's when I took the picture that I'm using as a reference. But I'm guessing it doesn't look much different now. You know, the lake and the sand and the camping areas. I loved camping when Alex was younger. I always loved camping. It was just a great thing. I watch camping videos. I watch people like, I don't know if any of you have ever seen Traveling Robert, or Tanya and Dave. I think their YouTube channel is called Turn It Up World. And there's a few of them I watch who I just love the camping experience. The people I just named have RVs. They have like motorhomes, and I think Robert has, I don't know what you call it, but it's the kind you pull behind you. And so my camping days were always in a tent. In fact, this past December, just a little over a month ago, I went camping with Robin and Robin's brother and his wife and a couple of friends and Robin's mother. And we all went to this place here in Florida called the Stephen Foster Folk Culture Center State Park or something like that, up in White Springs, Florida. And it was cold, by the way. It was really cold. And so we had a tent. They had RVs and motorhomes. And so Robin and I slept in the tent. But fortunately, thank you, Robin's brother Jim, he gave us a heater for the tent. And at first I was worried about using it because I thought, well, a tent can start on fire. But this particular heater seemed to be made specifically to not have fires. I stayed up when I first put it on. It heated the tent in no time. But I stayed up to keep an eye on it. And then I eventually was comfortable that it was safe. I still didn't keep it on while we slept, though. I did turn it off. But anyway, getting back to the camping. So back in the days of this that I'm using from this picture, my son and I would camp, and we did go to KOAs a lot. And KOAs have these little cabins, and I loved the cabins. So I don't know if that makes me not much of a camper if I'm going to sleep in a cabin with a bed. There is a bed in those cabins. They're wonderful. But it's what I like to do. And then there were times when it was raining and I would just go ahead and fork out the money for a motel room. I say fork out the money. It was usually a Motel 6, which back in those days was probably as cheap as a KOA, I guess. Yeah, we went everywhere. Man, we went everywhere. Can I tell you where we went? We went to the Carolinas a lot, North Carolina. We went up to Quebec one trip and just spent some time up there. It was just a beautiful place. We spent some time camping on Long Island, way out on Long Island, on the South Shore. There's a little state park. I grew up on Long Island, but I didn't grow up way out there. But anyway, we camped. Where else did we camp? We camped on the North Shore of Long Island, up in the North Fork. We camped in Florida. We went down to Key West. This is where we live. Not in Key West, but we live about 8 hours north of Key West, so it's a long ride. That place was fun. Oh my gosh. You have to be prepared though, because when we went, there was a lot of mosquitoes. If you're camping anyway. Yeah, but a little bug, insect repellent, and you're good to go. We camped in the snow one time, camped in super rain. Here's the funny thing about the rain. The rain seems like it's ruining your camping experience, right? But no. Just have the right attitude. When you're all done with it and you're talking back, you say, remember the time we went camping and it was raining so hard that we got so wet that we might as well have jumped into a lake because we wouldn't have gotten any wetter if we jumped in a lake. Well, those are the fun memories. And I embrace them. You always hear when you're growing up, when you're getting older, that once you get old, you'll have your memories. And it's true. But it doesn't really replace doing stuff, though. You still have to make memories, I think. Anyways, we also went camping one year. We went way out to western Texas. I called it the trip to nowhere because we had no destination. We had no people to visit. We just drove out there and camped. And then the next year after that, we drove out to see the Grand Canyon, and we camped along the way there too. My brother, Bob, lived in Los Angeles at that time, and so he loved camping too. So my brother Bob met us. I think it was a town called Williams or something, just south of the Grand Canyon. And we camped there, and then we went to see the Grand Canyon. It was just a beautiful visit. You always hear about Route 66, so Route 66 is part of that too. So we got to stand in this historic stretch of road. I think it went all the way to Chicago, right? I'm not really sure. Anyway, so those are the fun memories, and that's why I just think, going back to when you get old, you have your memories. Well, one way that I can feel like I'm going back in time, one way that I feel that I'm going back in time is to do what you're watching me do right here, is to paint. Because for the half hour it took me to paint this picture, I was back there. I was back in Greensboro, North Carolina, 1994. I was back there. I was remembering we forgot the can opener. I was remembering cooking eggs on an open fire and the ashes getting into the scrambled eggs, and they looked ugly. I remember telling my son, it's road rules. When you're camping, you eat stuff that looks like this. It's road rules. We would open up a can of beefaroni. I'd open up a package of Oscar Mayer hot dogs. And I think we had powdered lemonade for drinks. And we would rent canoes. We would rent bicycles. One time we took a rapids. We rode the rapids in eastern Tennessee, and that was the only time it's not the only time. I did ride the rapids once when I was a kid. My mom and dad took us all on a rapids ride in Cody, Wyoming. But as far as my adult life, that's the only time I ever rode the rapids. And for those who've done rapids, they say that the rapids that Alex and I did back in that trip was mild. wasn't It was pretty rough for us, though. It was pretty cool to be going down that water and literally seeing a hole in the water. That's what it looked like, and your raft is literally going into that hole, and you say, "Whoa, this is like a theme park ride or something." So painting brings me back. It puts me in that place. It takes me back to that time, to that place, and so sometimes I like to work on a painting and deliberately make it take longer just so that I can stay there for a little while. And the same thing was true, not the same thing, but here's a similar thing. When I used to do portraits more often, sometimes I would feel something about the person who I was doing the portrait of. Now, if it was a person I knew, then I probably wouldn't have any reason to be surprised at the things I was feeling. But I did portraits of people I didn't know, as commissioned work. And sometimes I would say to them later on, like let's say it was somebody's father who had passed away. I would say, "Boy, was your father perhaps in construction? I just wondered about that." And they would say, "How did you know?" And I would say, "Well, I didn't know. But I was focusing on him. I was focusing on every little piece of his face. And every once in a while in my mind, I would have this flash of an image. There was one time I was sketching a guy live. The guy sat in front of me, and it was at a fundraiser, I guess. And so people were paying $5 or whatever to get their portrait sketched in charcoal, which is what I was doing. And I was looking at him, and all of a sudden, a flash of a fireman's uniform was in my head. Just a microsecond. And so I had to say something. I said to him, "Are you by chance a firefighter?" And he said, "Wow, how did you know that?" And I said, I didn't know it. I just had this feeling. That's how I put it. But the truth is, I saw a flash, like one frame of a motion picture just flashed through my brain. So I am not claiming to be psychic. I am not claiming to be clairvoyant or whatever those other words are. But maybe we all have a little bit of intuition within us that we've pushed away because we depend so much on computers and we depend so much on other people. So as you can see, this picture is starting to look like the scene that I had envisioned. In the photograph, by the way, there were people in the picture also, and in the photograph there was like a cart there, like somebody had hauled something down to the beach. But I just didn't want to paint those things in here. I just wanted the beach. I just wanted the lake. And as I'm working on it here, I'll tell you, I'm trying to decide if that was sand or soil, dirt. I couldn't really remember, and I couldn't really tell in the photograph. The way it looks here, it kind of looks like it might be sand. So yeah, it wasn't quite that color. I didn't quite duplicate or replicate the color of the ground right there, but it's a general idea. So as I'm doing this, I'm also, in my mind, I'm noticing that the water could look a lot better. And so that'll be I think that's the last thing I did when I painted it, is I added some ripples to the water. Oh, and I will tell you this also, that I did use the pan colors from Winsor Newton, but I also used some tiny bit of gouache. Let me see the gouache brand name. Artist's Loft. I used a little bit of gouache. I think I used white. Yeah, I think white is the only color I used from the gouache. Only because it's hard to put white watercolor over watercolor. It's kind of hard. There is white in the pan, as you see, and I do use the white to lighten the colors before I put them down. But once the color is down, you're hard pressed. You could do it. You have to really just kind of do it slowly and make sure it's kind of thick on the brush. But to make it easier on myself, I just used gouache. I don't think I used any other colors but the white. So right here, I'm trying to fill in what I think is the dark tones, the deep tones in the undercover of the trees, and some of those brushes, and that grass right there. If you can tell that's grass. It went from a beach to a grassy, lush area. If you're ever in North Carolina, it's a beautiful place. The whole state is beautiful. I've not spent much time in the eastern part of North Carolina, but I've seen videos like from Robert and others who've spent some time there. But I have spent time in the mountains, in Boone, in Asheville, in Greensboro, Cherokee. I don't know if Cherokee's a town or Cherokee's just an area. That's where they have the casino, and I did go to the casino, and did not win. Well, I did win a little bit of money, but not with my own money. I was betting. Alex was too young to go into the casino, so he went to the game room, And I took 4 quarters that he had given his aunt had given him some quarters. Aunt Robin. Robin isn't really his aunt, but he called her Aunt Robin. Anyway, she gave him 4 quarters, and I held them in my pocket. I had them in my pocket, so I didn't even have to ask him for them. So I bet his 4 quarters, knowing that if it won any money, it would go to him. And it went up to like $80. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I kept betting. And then it went down to 60, and I cashed out because I didn't want to lose all of it. So I was so excited I couldn't wait. I brought him to, and I wasn't in there very long. I didn't want to be separated from him. He was in the game room. He was having a blast, by the way, in the game room. So I went back to him, and I told him he had won $60. And after that, we left the casino, and we found this place where you could fish for trout. And it was a stocked pond, so the trout were placed there by the people who worked there. And there was a large, very large trout. You could see them. And so he had his mind made up he was going to catch that big one. And sure enough, he did. And you know what they do? They charge you by the pound for those fish. And you can't throw them back. You have to take them. So guess how much it cost? It cost $60. The same amount he won. Can you believe it? So then we paid the $60 because I didn't have any other money on me. But when we got to an ATM, I was able to give him back his $60. And we didn't even keep the fish because I wasn't going to cook that fish. Oh, no, that's not me. I'll open up a can of tuna or I'll go to get a fish sandwich from McDonald's. Yeah, I'm not the guy that cuts open a fish and cooks it. I know all of you are, but it's not one of the things I do. Anyway, as you can see right here, I messed up. You see that large blotchy area right there? That's a mistake, but it's wet, so I know I can fix that. I was going to sop it up with a paper towel, but I couldn't find one real near me, so I used a large brush to fix it. You'll see in a second how I did that. Anyway, those little tiny lines with that skinny brush kind of give the water more of a rippled effect, more of a wind-blown effect. And then I'll kind of make it all work with the large brush. You'll see in a second. So we're 27 minutes into this video. The video is only a half hour long, so there's only about 2.5 minutes left. And I will thank you right now for watching. Thank you for the kind words that you've left me in the comments. And if you can subscribe, that'll be good too, because I understand that the YouTube algorithm helps get the word out about your videos when more people subscribe to them or something like that. And if this helps you at all in understanding how to paint, in understanding what paints to use, or if you're just enjoying watching the video, let me know. Say hi. How you doing, Larry? Oh, my name is Larry, by the way. I know I'm Poppa Paints, but my real name is Larry. So some of these postcards, by the way, I'm selling on Etsy. I don't know if this one will be there or not, but some of them I give away. Most of them I give away. All right. Well, there, what I'm doing right there, you can see I'm taking that larger brush and I'm kind of pushing the paint around to kind of spread it out a lot. And so there you go. Pretty sure that's it. What am I going to do with this? Let's see what I did with that brush. I don't remember. Maybe looks like I'm getting some more paint. Let's see what I did with this. Oh, okay, that's where I took some of the white gouache and I just kind of dabbed it onto the sandy area to give it a little bit of more of a reflective look, to lighten up some of the darker areas. So 99% of this painting is the watercolor from the Winsor Newton Pan set that you see there. And the rest of it is a little bit of gouache, a little bit of white gouache. All right, there it is. I think I hold it up to the camera now. I took a still. I'll use the still as the ending picture. Again, thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, and all those other things that people do with YouTube videos. And just enjoy your own world and your own painting. Bye.